Cursor, Windsurf, Lovable, Bolt. Just a name of a few AI code editor. Have you ever wondered how they work or even how hard it would be to create such an AI code editor? Well, look no further. In this mini course, we will create our simple AI code generator. In fact, as we spoke, our AI code editor generated a beautiful Twitter card design. And it also has some sort of interactivities, and we can use this download button to download the generated code, and we can use the editor to edit our post in real time. Let's try to create another app. So I'm going to say sortable to-do list app. Run, and here it started generating our code. Let's see how it looks. And it is done creating, and as you can see, it looks very beautiful. Let's try to add a to-do. Another one. And let's try to click here, and we can mark them as complete. We can delete it. And not only that, but we can also sort it, which is very interesting because most beginner can even do it, but our editor has made it in just couple of seconds. So this is very powerful, and I hope you're excited to make this with me. We're going to do everything from scratch. You just need a little bit of knowledge of React and Node.js. Let's start. Okay, to get started, I have opened an empty folder named AI Code Editor in VS Code. So let's start by creating some folders. We're going to create two folders, one called client for the client side codes and another one called server for server side codes. And in the client, we're going to create a new React project. So I'm going to open the terminal and first go to our client and then run npm create vite at latest. And for the project name, we can just say dot because I'm already inside the folder I want. And I'm going to use React and just JavaScript. And then we can say npm I to install. While this is installing, let's also install some packages in our server. So let's cd into server, and then we can say npm init-y to initialize a package.json here. And now we're going to install, so npm I for install, we're going to install express, we're going to install course, we're going to install .env and enter. Okay, it should be .env, not .env, sorry. Okay, everything is installed. We need one more package, so I'm going to say npm I, but this time I'm going to say -d for development and then nodemon. So nodemon will be only installed as a development dependency. And nodemon will basically restart our server every time we make some changes to our files. And we can also create a new file called index.js and make sure it is inside our server folder. In the package.json, we're going to create some scripts. We're going to create a dev script, and here we can simply say nodemon index.js. We can also create a start script that will say node index.js. Okay, now in the index.js, let's start creating a basic server. So I'm going to say const express equals to require express, const course equals to require course, const .env equals to require .env, and then we can say .env.config, port equal to process.env.port or 3000. And then we are going to use course, we are going to use express.json and URL encoded. And then we can create a test route, so we can say app.get / and we can simply say welcome to the server. And then we can say app.listen, listen to our port, and console log server is running on localhost :3000. Let's try to run npm run dev. Okay, now let's focus on the front end. So all the dependencies have also been installed on front end. Let's say npm run dev. And our front-end project is also installed. Let's do some cleanup. So in the source, we don't need the assets folder. We don't need the app.css. In the app.js, I am also going to remove most of the stuff. So we don't need anything here. We don't need the state. We don't need all this content. For now, h1, let's say welcome to React app. and this is what it looks like. Let's go our index.css. We don't need any of this either. The main.js, yeah, main.js is good. Okay, for styling I want to use Tailwind CSS. If you have never used Tailwind, don't worry, it is very easy. So simply search for Tailwind CSS. It's the first link, and then we can click on get started, and here is the using with Vite guide. So we simply have to run this command. So I'm going to paste it and hit enter, and we're also going to have to add it in our vite.config.js. so copy this line, go to vite config, import it, and we want to use it in our plugins array. So right now we only have React, but we want React as well as our Tailwind CSS config, and then we have to import it in the CSS. Okay, let's add some test class to see if it's working. So in our body we can say class, we can say something like bg-gray-800 and text-white. And oh, we have to restart our server, so npm run dev, refresh, and it is working. We got our Tailwind classes working. And by the way, as you can see, if I say something, let's say text dash, I already get the autocompletes, and I also see what the result will be. So if I accept it and hover on the text, I also get some code snippets. If you also want this kind of solution, what you have to do is go to extensions and search for Tailwind, and the extension is called Tailwind CSS IntelliSense. If you want, you can install it. Okay, I'm going to add some classes to our root as well. So class, first we are going to give it a container class. So to visualize what that will do, let's also give it some background color. So we can say bg-red, and let's try this color. And because we said container, our div will have a max width like so. But we want our div to be centered, so we're also going to say mx-auto. So margin on left and right to be auto. We also want some padding inside, so p-5. So padding of 20 pixels on all sides. And we can also say min-h-screen, so it should take up the entire screen. And then we can say flex to give it a display of flex, a flex-call for flex direction of column. And then we can say gap-3. So why do we need a flex layout? So if I go to our apps and add some more content, now we have some gap between our contents. And not only that, if I add a class in our h3, so let's say empty-auto, which means margin top of auto, we can place our content at the very end very easily. So this is why I'm using a flex layout. Okay, we can remove this background. And now what we want to do is create our input component. So in the source, create a new file. It will be inside components folder, and we're going to call it input.jsx. Okay, first we're going to have a div. Inside the div we're going to have a text area, and then we're also going to have a button. Now inside the button we want a SVG, so I'm going to search for send button, send icon SVG, and let's click here. And we can choose this one, for example. Open it in VS Code, and this is the SVG. We can copy the SVG part, close it, and paste it here. And we don't need this attribute, we can remove this. We don't need this part either. Save, and let's just use it in our app component. So let's say import. We're going to import input from components/input. And we don't need all this HTML, we just say input component. So here it is, the icon is very big, so let's make it smaller. So in our input, we're going to say instead of 800 pixel, let's try 28 pixel. And much better now, but we want it to be white, so we can give our path some class also. So class name of fill-white. We can do the same for this path, class name equals to fill-white. Now our icon is white. Now the text area, we don't need all this attribute. We just want a placeholder. In the placeholder, we can say example, create a to-do app. And we can start styling it. So in our div, our div will have some class names. So class names, we're going to say bg-gray-600. It will have rounded border radius, so we're going to say rounded-xl, which will be 12 pixel in border radius. And then we are also going to say it will have a display of flex, and the items will be placed at the end. So the button can be at the bottom. It's a p-6 for padding of 24 pixel, and then margin top will be auto. And this is what it looks like now. Let's target our text area. So our text area will also have some classes. So class name, it should have full width, so w-full, and it should have a height of, let's say, 26, which is about 104 pixel. And then we don't want any outline, so we're going to say outline dash none, so no outline. And let's say our input will receive a callback function, so let's call it cb for callback. And in our button we can say on click, we're going to call handle click function. So let's create our function. We can say const handle click, it will be a function. So inside that, first we want to get the value of our text area. So for that we're going to use the useRef, import useRef from React, and then we can create an input ref. So we're going to say const input ref equals to useState null, and in our text area we can say ref equals to input ref, like so. And now in our handle click we can say const input value equals to input ref dot current dot value dot trim, to remove all the white space if there is. And if we have a value, only then we are going to call the callback function, and then we're setting the value of our text area to none. Okay, in our app.js, now let's try to create a handle input function. So we're going to say const handle input, it will receive the input value. Let's just console log our input value. So in our input we're going to say cb, or the callback, we're going to pass our handle input. Let's open the console. Let's just say hello, click on send, and we get hello. And another component I want to create in this part is a loading component. So in our components, let's create a new file. We're going to call it full page loader .jsx, and we're going to create a component, use it in our app component. So we're going to say import full page loader, and we can use the full page loader here. It's just saying full page loader, we don't want that. So let's start styling it. So we're going to give our div some class names. So class names, it will be a fixed in position, so we're going to say fixed. It will have top 0, left 0, and width and height of full, and the background can be white, so we can say bg-white, but the opacity can be, let's say, only 10%. And then we're going to say display of flex, item center, and justify center to place everything in center, and z-index of 50. So inside that we can create another div. We can give some class name, we can say size, let's say 10, to give it a width and height of 40 pixel, and then we can say rounded-full to make it round, and then we can give some borders. So we can say border-3, and then border-white, and this is how it looks like. And then we can say border-b for bottom dash, we can say blue, and we can choose this color for example. So one of the border is now blue, and we need some animation. So in the tailwind we can search for animation. As you can see, we got animation. So simply animate spin. Then in our app component, what we can do is use a use state. So we can say import, we're going to import use state from React, and then we're going to say const loadings and set loading equals to use state false. And then here what we can do is say if loading show the full page loader. So now we don't see the loader, but if we set the loading to true, then we get our loader. Okay, this will be all for this part, and in the second part we'll start creating the backend for our project. I hope you're excited, and don't forget to subscribe. Welcome to the part 2 of creating an AI code editor. In this video, we're going to create the backend for our AI code generator. So in our index.js, we can create another path. So we can say app.get, and we can call it generate code. Generate codes. We're going to get the request and response. And here for now, let's just say const prompt equals to request.query.prompt. If nothing is passed, we can simply say create a to-do app. Okay, for all the AI related stuff, we're going to use ChatGPT or OpenAI API. So simply go to platform.openai.com. And then you have to sign up, and I am already signed up, so I'm going to click on login and log in with my Google account. And after that, you're going to have to click on settings and then API keys, and you're going to have to create a new API key, and you have to name it. So let's name it AI code editor and default project, and then click on create secret key. And then you have to click on the copy button to copy it. And then in our server, we're going to create a new file. We're going to call it .env. Here we're going to say OpenAI API key equals to, and then copy this, paste it like so. And by the way, use your own API key. This one will not work for you. This is only for me. Okay. Then in our server, we can create a new folder called utils. In the utils, we can create a new file, call it ai.js. You can name it whatever you want. So first thing we want to do is improve the prompts. If the user simply say create a to-do app, we want to expand it. So for example, if the user say create to-do app, we want to expand the prompt into saying create a simple to-do app, and the to-do app should have the following functionalities like adding a to-do app, marking it as complete, etc, etc. So basically we have to enhance this prompt. So for that, we're going to use the OpenAI API. So if I search for OpenAI npm, we get this library. We get the OpenAI library. We are going to use this one. So copy this code, new terminal, cd into server, and then paste the code. So back to the OpenAI, done. And then if we click on docs, we get a simple code snippet of how to use it. Copy, and we can paste it. What we want to do is create a new function. So function, the name of our function will be improve prompt, and it will receive prompt as an argument. And we also need a system prompt. So what a system prompt is, it is telling the AI what it is, how it should interact. So let me just paste the code and then show you. So we're going to say const improvement prompt equals to, it will be a string, and inside the string I'm going to paste some text. And let's look at what we're saying. So you are a professional prompt engineer. Your job is to improve users' prompt for generating web apps using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Your task is to improve users' prompt by making it more specific, detailed, and clear, but also keeping it simple and concise. Your output should be a single line of text without any additional explanation or formatting. So for example, if the user says create a sortable to-do app, you should expand it into saying create a to-do list app with the following feature. Add new task, mark as complete, delete task, sort task by dragging and dropping, use modern JavaScript, etc. and add good styling and make it visually appealing. And this is basically, we're telling our AI how to act, and you can use your own prompt or copy this. I'm going to leave the link to the full project in the video description. So now in this function, what we're going to have to do is say const response equals to await. This has to be an asynchronous function. So await client.chat.completions.create, and then we have to choose which model we want, because if we go here and then click on models, as you can see we get a lot of model, but I want to use the O4 mini. So we're going to say model model is gonna be GPT-40-mini. And oh, by the way, you have to go to settings and then billing, and you have to make sure you have some balance in your account. So you can click on add credit to add some balance to your account, otherwise the API will actually not work. And then we're going to say messages. Here we're passing two messages. First one is the system message where we're passing the improvement prompt, and then another one is user message where we're passing the prompt that we pass in our function. And then we're going to say return. It will be response choices 0 message.content.trim. A long word, but this is how you do it. And then we can say module.exports improve prompt function. We should also import it using require syntax. So we're going to say const OpenAI equals to require OpenAI. And by the way, here you need to pass an API key. But since our env variable name is OpenAI API key, which is the default, we don't have to pass anything. It will work on its own. Okay, now let's try to use this. So we're going to copy this, go to our index.js and import it somewhere. So let's import it here. So we're going to say const improve prompt equals to require util/AI. And let's try to use it. We're going to say const improved prompt equals to, and again we are going to have to make this async. We can say await improve prompt and then the prompt. And for now, let's just say console.log improve prompt equal to this, and we can say res.send, and we can send anything. Let's just say hello. So now in our browser, if I go to localhost :3000 and then generate codes, okay, it looks like our server has crashed. Let's see why is that. It's saying environment key is missing because the environment variable is not being able to access. So we just have to move this .env.config line before our import statement, save it, and this is working now. Refresh. And as you can see, our prompt was created to do app since we didn't pass any query, and this prompt became this prompt here. So improve prompt equal to created to do app that allows user to edit, delete task, etc, etc. Okay, so now we are getting our improved prompt from a prompt. Now we want to use this prompt to generate the codes. So for that, in our AI function, we're going to create another function. So let's say function, and we're going to call it generate response stream. So by saying stream, we won't get all the text at once, but the text will be streamed, and we'll receive the prompt as argument. And then we can return. We're going to say client.chat.completions.create. We're going to have to pass a system prompt which we'll create, and a user prompt which will be the prompt we pass. And here we're simply saying stream equal to true, so it will stream the data. So let's create the system prompt. I'm going to say const code system prompt equals to, it will be again a string, and again I'm going to paste some text, then explain to you. So this is our system prompt. It is very long, but again, link to the full source code will be in the video description, so you can easily copy paste it. But simply what we're saying is our AI will be a professional front-end developer. His job is to generate code based on user prompt following these strict rules. So only output 3 sections: HTML, CSS and JavaScript. And very important, I am saying all the sections should be separated by this thing. You can call it whatever you want. And also, this is not the best way to do it, but this is the most simplest way, and I want to keep this video simple, so I'm saying this. But you can also improve this however you want. So we're also saying only use plain HTML, CSS and JavaScript, no framework like React, Vue, but you can use React or Vue. That's up to you. It is responsive and visually modern. All style should go in the CSS section. All JavaScript should go in the JS section. And they should be linked using this link tag and script tag. And we can also use external CDNs. To use the CDN, we're going to use the CDN link like this. And we're also saying think before generating, understand the prompt, and do not include thought process, just the code. And we're also passing an example. So first we'll get the HTML, then we'll get this text, then we'll get the CSS, then we'll get this text, and then we'll get the JavaScript. So this is our system prompt. And we're going to pass the system prompt in our generate response stream. We're going to pass our system prompt, so code system prompt, and we have to export it, and let's try to use it. So in our index.js, we're also going to import our generate response. So here, instead of just console logging this, what we can do is say const equals to await generate response stream, and we're also actually passing our improvement prompt, our improved prompt, not the original prompt, which is maybe just create a simple to-do app, but the improved one, for example this. And then what we can do is say for, and it will be awaited for loop, so for await, and then we can say const event of stream. So each of the little words we get will be each an event, and then we can say const chunk equals to event choices 0 dot delta dot content and or nothing, an empty string. And these might also come as null or undefined, so we can use this syntax. And then we can console log it, so console dot log our chunk, and let's try to refresh and see what happens. And we're getting the chunks. Let's Control C. And everything was coming in a new line. So if I want to see, if I don't want new line, what I can do is instead of console.log, we can say process.stdout.write, and this will write without any new lines. Try to refresh, and as you can see, this is how our output is being streamed. Control C, exit out. So now instead of just writing in the terminal, instead of simply writing in the terminal, we want to send this in our front end somehow. First, I don't want to write this, and what we can do is wrap everything in a try catch block. So cut this, we're going to say try, and then if something goes wrong, we can use a catch block. And then in the try block, we paste this. So after getting our stream, what we have to do is set some header. So we're going to say res.setHeader. The content type will be text/event stream. And then we're going to say res.setHeader. And then we're going to say transfer encoding. It will be chunked. And here we can check if we have a chunk. If we do, we can say res.write, and we can simply write our chunk. We can also add a question mark here to be super sure. And after we're done writing, instead of res.send, we're gonna have to say res.end, like this. And in the catch block, if we get an error, we're going to console log the error, and then we're going to say if our headers are not sent, then we're going to say res.status equals to 5000, and then JSON, and then a JSON object failed to generate codes. Otherwise, we can simply say res.end. And this should be all for our backend. In the next video, we'll be creating our front end. So be sure to subscribe for that, and I'll see you in the next video. In this video, we're going to create the front end for our AI code editor. So let's get started. For our code editor, we're going to use a library called Sandpack. If you don't know what it is, you can check this video of mine. It will show you how you can create a simple code editor. But if you don't, that's also okay. You can follow along. So now we don't need the server files. In the client, I'm going to create a new file inside our components. New file, we're going to call it code preview.jsx. And then go to Google and search for Sandpack. It is the first link. To use it, we simply have to install it by executing this command. So go to the terminal, we can go to client and then run our code. Let's go to the docs. Here you can see how you can use it. We are going to use the static template, and then we should also get a theme somewhere. So here for the theme, I'm going to choose the aqua blue, and you get the code for how to use it. So first we have to import this, and we actually have to install this theme as well. So copy this and say npm I to install and paste it. And here we can use the Sandpack component. So we can say Sandpack, and our code preview will actually receive some props. So files, it will receive the files, and it will receive some options. And here we can pass them. So we can say options equals to options, and same with files. So files equals to files, And for the template, we'll use static. So static means HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And for the theme, we're going to use aqua blue. Save. And we can start using it in our app component. So go to app.jsx and import the code preview. So we're going to say import. We're going to import code preview from component / code preview. And we can use it here. And let's see how it looks. So this is how it looks like. Let's pass some options here. So we're going to say options. It will be an object. And we want to say editor height. And we can actually use the calc function in CSS here. So we're going to say calc. We're going to say 100 VH minus, let's say 220 pixel. And this is how it looks like. And we can also show a console button. So we can say show console button. And set it to true. That way we have this button to open our console if needed. And then we would also need some files. So we're going to say files. This will also be an object. So we'll need 3 files. So we're going to need index.html, which will be an object. And here we're going to say code. For now it will be an empty string. So empty string, and we're going to say active equals to true for now. And then we also need a styles.css. We're going to say code will also be nothing and active can be false. And then we can also create a file called index.js for our JavaScript. And again, code equals to nothing and active equals to false. Save it. Now we actually have 3 empty files. For the codes, we're going to use useState, and same for our active tab. So we're going to also import. Okay, we don't need act. I think I imported by accident. Instead, we need useState. And we're going to create some state variables. So we're going to say const. And then we can say HTML code. Set HTML code equal to useState and empty string to initialize it, same with CSS and JavaScript. And then we can say const active tab and set active tab equal to useState, and by default it will be HTML. So which tab is opened, the HTML, CSS or JavaScript? We are importing useState twice. We don't need that, just once. Okay, so the active tab basically means which tab is currently open. HTML means HTML, CSS means this one, and JS means the index.js. So here, instead of saying active equals to true, we can say active equals to active tab equals to HTML. Here we can say active tab equals to CSS, and here we can say active tab equals JS. So here if we said JS, the JS would be active by default. It should be handle, so we can just rename it and actually pass it here, handle input. And then in the handle input, we're going to do all the magic. So here we're going to we're first going to reset all our states. So we're going to say set HTML code equals to empty string, empty string, empty string. So if we had anything previously, we are going to set them to empty string. We can also say set active tab to HTML. We're going to set loading to true to show our loader. And then we're going to have to make an API call. So we're going to say const base URL. So base underscore URL, the base URL of our API, which is localhost :3000. And then we can say const response equals to await fetch. And then we're going to fetch to base URL / name, and the route was generate codes. Paste it, and we're using a get route, so we can also say question mark prompt equals to, and we're going to say encode URI component. So for example, the space become %20 in the URL, etc. So encode URI component the input value, which is our prompt. And after that we have to read our response. So we're going to say const reader equals to response.body.getReader, and then we can say decoder equal to new text decoder, and the format will be UTF-8. And then we can create a variable. So let output equals to empty string, and then we're actually going to use a while loop. So while true, we're actually using an infinite loop here, so we have to make sure we use a break statement somewhere. And then we can say const done and value equals to await reader dot read. So this will read this incoming stream line by line, and then we're going to say if done. If it is done, in that case we can break. So we don't want our loop to continue running, we're going to say break. When we enter while loop, by that time we have already started getting response. So here we can say set loading to true, actually to false, to remove our loader. Okay, so if we are not done, here we can say our output is plus equals to decoder.decode, and we want to decode our value, and we don't need to pass this actually. This will still work. And then what we're going to do is say const, and we're going to say HTML, CSS and JavaScript equal to output.split. We don't want to split by dash dash dash. What we want to split is in our AI.js, we tell our AI to separate everything by this thing here. So we are going to copy this and paste it here. So let's say if our output is all this code, and if we use the split function in JavaScript and split it by this, we're going to get actually 3 sections. So if I open console, inspect, and let's just say something like this, and say split it at the pipe sign, we get an array of 3 elements. And if we only had, let's say, 2 things, we'd get an array of 2. And if we only had 1 thing, if we only had 2, 3, 4, we'd get an array of 1 element. So our response will be streamed, right? So if our response is only this much, then after splitting by this, we'll only get 1 item in our array. But if our response is this much response has been sent, we split it by this, we'll get 2 items in our array. And if everything has been sent, then we'd get 3 elements in our array, and we are capturing them in HTML, CSS and JavaScript variable. So now what we can do is say, if we have HTML, if we have a HTML code, we can simply say set HTML code to HTML.trim. Same for CSS and JavaScript. And then what we can do is, if we have HTML, CSS and JavaScript, in that case we can set our active tab to JS, because that means our HTML has been done, CSS has been done, and we're writing the JS part. Otherwise we can say else if HTML and CSS, only the HTML and CSS code is sent but not JS, then set the active tab to CSS. Otherwise set the active tab to HTML, and hopefully this will work. So let's try to type a prompt. Let's say create a to-do app. Click on send, we get our loader, and let's just console log here to make sure our code is running. Console.log response received starting to read. Refresh, and let's just say simple to do app. Click on send, inspect our console, and it is saying received and starting to read. But we actually don't see anything. So let's also console log something here. So let's try to console log. Console.log, we can log our output, and again say simple to do app. And we are actually getting our chunks in the console, but we're not seeing them in our editor. So let's see why is that. Oh, actually because the code will have to be our states, not the empty strings. So HTML code, CSS code and JavaScript code. Let's say simple to do app. Run. And look at that, our editor is working perfectly. So here is our output. Let's try to add a task. So let's say item 1, item 2, and then we can edit. We can also edit it, and we can delete it. So this is great. Everything is working just the way we want it. So I'll end this part here, and in the next part we'll see how we can download our codes. So I'll see you in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe. Welcome to the final part of this video. In this video, we are going to add a download button to our AI code editor to download all the codes. Let's see how we can do that. So in our app.js, we're going to create a new variable. We're going to call it const download button. And this will just be some JSX. It will be a button text. Inside that, we want a download icon. So again, let's search for download icon as VG. And we can click on this link, search for download, and I like this one. Open it in VS Code, copy this, close, and paste it here. And the size is actually very big, so let's make it smaller. Let's say 28 pixel by 28 pixel. And our button will have some class. I can paste them, and let me explain what are the classes. So we're seeing cursor pointer and size will be 16, so it will be 64 pixel in width and height. The background will be blue. We're giving a display of flex and justify center and item center to place the icon in center, rounded dash full to make the button round. And we're also giving it a position absolute, a bottom of 4, which means 16 pixel from the bottom, and left 50%, finally translating it by negative 50% and giving it as the index of 10. And for our SVG, the path can be white. So find the fill and give it white. Same with this one. And let's just try to use our download button. Let's put it here. So download button, save. And this is our download button. This is looking nice. So initially we don't want to show our download button. So what we're going to do is const show download button. And set show download button, use state false. And here, instead of saying download button, we're going to say if show download button is true, only then show the download button. So initially we won't see the download button, but after the while loop, once we're done with generating all the codes, then we can say set show download button to true. Only then show our download button. Okay, now when the download button is clicked, we want to do something. So we're going to create a new function. We're going to call it download file, and it will not receive any arguments. It should be function, and we can pass it in our download. So we're going to say on click download file, like that. Okay, for downloading them, we're going to use JS zip. So search for JS zip. Here is the library. In the terminal, we just have to run npm install JS zip like this. Copy, paste, enter. And we can use it. So here, let's say import. We're going to import JS zip from JS zip library. Should be capital J. And in our download, we can say const zip equals to new JS zip, and we're going to add our files with the file name and the code. So this will add the files to our zip, and then we're going to say zip.generate async to asynchronously generate the file. Then we're going to say link. We're going to create a HTML link tag. The href will be the create object URL of the content. So for the href, we're actually converting our zip into an object URL. Then we're saying link.download equal to code.zip, whatever the name of our file we want. And for a second, we're adding it to our document, clicking on the link and then removing it. So basically, we're clicking on the link and then removing the a tag. And hopefully this will work. Let's say something, for example, create a working digital clock. Click on send. And look at that, we have a working digital clock. Let's try to download our code, and it downloaded the codes. Let's try to open it in our VS Code. And we can see all our files, and if I open it, we can also see our file here. So everything is working. And just like that, we have created a fully functional AI code editor using React and Node.js. And of course you can improve it, so we can add another prompt to update our codes. You can save the codes to database, etc. But for this simple course, this was more than enough. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for more amazing videos just like this.